Welcome to St. Paul, Minnesota, and the finals of the United States Men's Gymnastics Championships. This is Alexander Artimoff, known to his friends as Sasha. He's the child of gymnastics champions from what was the Soviet Union. Now he lives in Denver, Colorado, and is chasing an American dream. This is what he looked like on the first night of competition, and this was his moment. His signature apparatus on the pommel horse. A world-class routine that helped move him to the lead, landing him halfway to that championship dream. And Artimoff is looking good on the standings. He has the lead over Guillermo Alvarez, and there's Jonathan Horton in third, David Sender, and Shawn Townsend, still with USA Gymnastics, is in 7th place, and he is 1.95 behind. But really winning this national championship, which he's done before, is not really what his story is. His story is a man who is sticking with the sport and coming back in his sport. Yeah,
he did not make the 2004 Olympic team. He said it was the hardest thing that he ever had to deal with. He said, I have no idea what they wanted. They just didn't want me on the team.
Al Troutwig, that was Tim Daggett, Elfie Schlegel, and Andrea Joyce is down there covering all the stories.
And Al, he said that the other night on day one. He felt like a rookie. He had to really come out here tonight with more aggression.
And a good start for Shawn Townsend. Told me, though, he was going to try to do a half twist on that. Must not have felt good enough off of the board and decided to just do the handspring double front.
In fact, this is one of his key events. He's very strong, very powerful, really wanted to throw a much more difficult vault. Said he was actually playing it safe on day one. Felt like he could have thrown a half twist, but chose not to do it here.
And look at, he steps outside of that line. That'll incur him another 1/10 of a point deduction. You see that right there, that 1/10 deduction for stepping outside the line.
And again, we're still getting used to these new scores in gymnastics, 15.45. Here's Jonathan Horton, great year. He's won the American Cup, and with Oklahoma, a national championship, and somehow they just keep doing it in Soonerland. Here's what happened to him first night on the high bar.
And this was unfortunate because he is phenomenal on this event. He told us he just got a little too hyped up, went too fast, and when you go too fast on a release that travels over the bar, you go too far.
What they do is add up the first night to the second night. It's an even Steven kind of thing.
Jonathan also said that starting on pommel horse for him is a good thing. It's not his favorite event, not his strongest apparatus, but he felt if I can just get through this, it'll be just all uphill from here.
Yeah, you know, that is what he said, but I don't really know if he believes that, but we'll see, because this is not where Jonathan shines. You see the form and the shoulders off balance like that. They were way too far forward. And when they get that out of balance, there is no way that you can continue to do what's called that circular motion, and you stop like that. That used to be a 5/10 of a point deduction. It is now a disastrous 8/10 off for that one fall.
Jonathan also said that the key for him in competition is being able to control his frustrations and emotions, so we'll have to see where he goes from here with that enormous fall.
Push. Attaboy.
All right, you want to see somebody fight through it when they've had a problem, because there is a national championship on the line here, but there's also a world championship spot. They're going to hold the world championships in October in Denmark, and these gymnasts that you're seeing all want to go there for a chance to win a medal representing the United States.
And a committee will choose that based on a very complicated formula. They'll look at the results from this competition. They'll also look to see who can supplement the team on weak events. A guy like this, Guillermo Alvarez, has just been phenomenal through the entire competition. His strength has been everything, not making errors. In the first day, he was 6 for 6, only athlete to do that. Big tumbling pass. He's got a lot of power. He really excels not only on floor exercise, but its sister event, the vault.
And I have to say, there were some people who were very surprised to see Guillermo in 2nd place after day one. And, you know, they said he really doesn't have the difficulty, but what makes his gymnastics is he's very clean. And I have to disagree, because so far this event is outstanding. I mean, he has some really tough skills here.
Yeah, this is the event where he does do the most. He has some weaker events in his repertoire, but
but he's clean.
Got a lot of power on floor and ball.
But isn't that the thing now, Tim? I mean, it's really hard to find a gymnast who can do all 6 events.
It's very, very hard. You know what? To be perfectly honest, they almost make it impossible to truly excel on every event.
Great style, beautiful routine.
Yeah, that makes it 7 for 7 for his USA Nationals, and that is an impressive start for day 2.
From the University of Minnesota and Denver, Colorado.
Yes, good start. 1 down, guys, 1 down. Let's go, Kyson.
1 down and 5 to go. Now we've got to do some housekeeping here. Horton score 13.45.
Easy routine.
In the old days, that would have been impossible. But now it's just okay. Guillermo Alvarez a 15.15. We're going to go across the room to parallel bars and Artimoff.
And just for a little bit of perspective, if you're in the 15 range, that's kind of like getting a 9-0 plus. Anything above a 15 is excellent. If you're getting close to 16, then you are just rocking the house. And that could happen right here. This guy has, for so long, Al, been the hyped kid. He has such tremendous lines and beautiful execution, but has really been hurt by injuries over the last couple of years, coming back from a shoulder surgery that took him out for almost 6 months. But this sequence right here is what it is all about in gymnastics. Look at that right there, and the perfect extended body line. That was a giant Diamondov 1 1/4. He's not done, nowhere near.
You can kind of make an analogy to women's uneven bars where the judges are looking for those perfect handstand positions right there.
He really was one of the big hopes. Fell a little bit short, did not qualify for a world team or an Olympic team, but this kid has all of the goods to get the job done, to not just compete on the national stage, but certainly internationally. There's his dad.
His dad, Vladimir, and he is not at all surprised, especially after day 1 of competition. He totally expected him to be in this position.
But you know what, guys? When you look at someone like Artimoff here and you see the dad and you think about dreams and how you get to this point, these kids ultimately have to do it for themselves. It has to be what they want.
There's no question, but to be perfectly honest, Al, in the sport of gymnastics nowadays, it takes such a tremendous effort to get there, and there aren't many people. A dad certainly is willing to go in and be in the gym for those 8 hours a day, 6 days a week.
So after the first of 6 rotations, Alexander Artimoff has the lead, 3/10 over Guillermo Alvarez in St. Paul. Back at the Visa Championships in St. Paul, Minnesota, we're looking at Jonathan Horton. He's got some coming back to do, and he definitely wants to put himself way far away from that 13.45 he got in his first routine.
Well, as we said, pommel horse is not his strength. From here on out, though, Jonathan is phenomenal, and it starts on the still rings. And it starts because he is so physically strong. Watch this. He'll elevate his body. That's like impossible, Al. I don't know how you do that. He went from a Maltese and pushed to a planche. Very, very strong physically.
One of the things you taught me early on, Tim, is that it's called still rings for a reason. You want to see the rings barely move, and that's something to really focus on when you watch a routine like this.
Exactly, and he is doing that extremely well. Those rings, there's nothing holding them in that position except for brute strength and constant balance. Full twisting double layout, and just the smallest step, but that was a fabulous routine for Jonathan Horton. He needed that one.
Little step on the dismount, huh?
Coaches.
Right down to the little step.
A very large contingent from Oklahoma competing here at these national championships.
And Jonathan said that's been one of the motivating factors for him at the competition. He kind of feels like he's just at a collegiate meet.
Back to Alexander Artimoff.
And this is another event where those long lines really look spectacular, but he had really only one major mistake in the first day of competition, and it came on his second release skill. He did it fine in warm-ups today, but he starts off big with a beautiful laid out front. Whoa, that was fingertips.
And this is what he fell on day one.
This is called a Kovacs over the bar. Perfect.
How good was his dad, Tim?
Well, he was excellent, actually. He was on the Soviet national team, and if you were on the Soviet national team from the late 70s to the early 80s, then you were world class. Any one of their athletes could go to any meet and win.
Nice.
He was actually a Soviet national champion.
And, you know, you have to remember, if you're old enough, the Soviet Union, they were the bad guys. Let's face it. There was the Cold War, the whole thing. If you could have whispered in their ear at that time, while they were wearing the hammer and sickle, you're going to represent the United States one day and your kid is going to go for the United States National Championship, he would have said, no way.
He probably would have called the KGB on you there, Al.
Now, you talk about how difficult it would have been back then to make a Soviet team. I remember being in Moscow when I was just 12 years old and watching the gym and the number of athletes. You could have easily fielded 5, 6 teams from that gym alone. It was the Dynamo Club. It was so impressive.
And Elfie, you should have had that chance in 1980 in Moscow, but that's all bad memories. This is the new world now, and Artimoff on the high bar should score well and does, 15.4. Now we're going to go back to Shawn Townsend, but first the score of Horton, 15.55. That's a very good score these days.
Big number, big number.
Shawn Townsend is chalking up on the parallel bars. I remember when Shawn was first making a name for himself in the USA gymnastics scene, and his dad was a truck driver, and he used to plan his truck route so that he could be in the town where Shawn was competing. And now Shawn's 27.
It's amazing. And, you know, this is where everything went right for Shawn a bunch of years ago. In 2001, he was the world champion, but really after that competition, things kind of went a little bit south, and he never was able to regain that form that he had. And as we mentioned earlier, not qualifying for that team in 2004 was devastating. He had a very difficult year last year.
Shawn always felt that he competed so well internationally, but it was in the U.S. where he had his difficulties. He's trying to change all of that.
And a very good routine once again from Shawn Townsend. He said he's just going to creep up on those guys that are ahead of him in the rotation.
Welcome back.
How'd you hear that? Someone said welcome back. Everybody in this little area right here knows what's going on here. Welcome back.
And I'm glad to see that. He really looks like the same gymnast that he was when he was at his peak. He's in the game. Great to see.
Here's our first look at David Sender from Stanford University and Arlington Heights, Illinois.
Last year he was the runner-up to Todd Thornton in the all-around at these national championships. He says it's so frustrating to him because when he finishes well, he says people always go, oh, wow, look at David Sender way up there.
Yeah, he'd like to erase that.
But this is not his strongest event. He has difficulties grabbing the bar consistently, but today it is right on. One more release for him.
The other thing that I liked about David in speaking with him the other day is he wasn't shy about saying exactly where he'd like to be in this competition. He said, winning is where I should be. I thought that was impressive. He was, you know, got a little bit of cockiness there. It's great.
Nice dismount. Wow. Great job.
That's what I'm talking about.
Coach Tom Galimi.
I got nothing but bonus.
Hey, we've got coaches working on their reputations to be part of the World Championships, too.
No question. No question. And there is his coach, Todd Galimi, the head coach at Stanford.
So Oklahoma, Stanford, University of Minnesota, well represented. 15.4 on the parallel bars for Shawn Townsend. Yes, indeed. Welcome back.
Good job, buddy.
go across the floor here at the Xcel Center. David Sender, a 14.85.
Yeah, you know, Al, he's got a good execution score, 9.25, but his difficulty's a little lacking. You got to be clean, and you got to do tough stuff.
Standings when we come back.
You know, the first thing about being the best in gymnastics is you have to love it.
Second thing about gymnastics, you have to work hard, really hard.
And the third thing is, you have to have support.
But support is more than just my coach and more than just my family and friends.
It's having a sponsor that's behind us 110% that allows us to focus solely on our sport. And we have Chevron.
Chevron has given us all the support to train, to excel.
Chevron, a USA Gymnastics sponsor since 1999, provides direct assistance to Team Chevron athletes to support their year-round training.
Chevron's given me the opportunity to do what I love and to win a national championship. We love what we do, and we love being the best.
So we thank Chevron for supporting us.
As we train to be the best and bring home a gold medal.
In the women's competition at the Visa Championships, Nastia Liukin vaulted to her second consecutive national championship, pleasing a tough audience. Her dad and coach, Valery, who won 4 Olympic medals for the former Soviet Union in 1988. Gymnastics, the dominant gene in the family. And now we'll see if the son of Russian gymnastics stars, both mom and dad, can duplicate that feat. Alexander Artimoff in the lead after 2 rotations. Well, if you were intrigued by the constant evolution of our world, you have to be fascinated by having seen what we've already seen in women's gymnastics, and that is the dream of a national championship born in what was the Soviet Union. Tim, we had a Liukin women's story. Now we've got an Artimoff men's story. What's the difference?
Well, a big difference. Liukin, her father, obviously one of the greats of all time in the sport of gymnastics. He has his glory, but Artimoff, this is a guy, his father was a tremendous gymnast but never realized his potential, was injured, but this kid, he has more promise than just about anyone I've ever seen before.
And Elfie, on the other side, you've got a man 5 years removed from his breakthrough national championship being welcomed back, and I guess maybe it's because we love to see athletes who love their sport, and Shawn Townsend does that.
Well, Shawn, we couldn't believe today, Tim and I, he had so much to say to both of us. He was just pouring out his heart and soul. He said after not making the national team last year, he made ends meet just by coaching in the gym, and it was really the kids that gave him the motivation, the inspiration to come back to the sport. He said, I deserve to be on that team in 2004. He wants another shot at it.
Teammates very supportive. 27 years old. You just don't see it in the sport of gymnastics, but we're seeing it. Now let's go to the vault and Jonathan Horton.
Remember, he started roughly on his first event, pommel horse, but came back very strong, and this is a great event for Jonathan. He was phenomenal in day 1, scored a 16.05, one of the biggest numbers we've seen thrown out at these championships for both men or women. And a Souk 2.5 twist, landed a little bit under-rotated.
And out of bounds.
Yeah, actually reminiscent of what Paul Hamm did at the Olympic Games in 2004. Same vault that Hamm did that put him in all that trouble. 2.5 twist. He just steps that foot outside, under-rotates. He'll get deductions for both not rotating enough and for going out of bounds. You see that 1/10 of a point.
But look at the difficulty again, 6.6, that's a huge vault.
It's hard to win a national championship. It's even harder to win it again. Just ask Todd Thornton.
And I'll tell you, he just has not looked like the athlete that he was, even remotely, last year.
And he's had a lot going on. A month ago, had his wisdom teeth removed. 3 weeks ago, he said he strained a tricep. He lost a week of training. Now he's been diagnosed with this thyroid problem, goes through a lot of slumps and finds it hard to get back up.
And he's already had a little bit of an error, was supposed to do an extra half turn on one of those pirouettes. But he's looked tired, to be honest, and he really feels that this doctor is going to help him get back on track and be a contender again.
He looked tired even speaking with us.
He did.
He didn't even have the energy to talk to us.
Dismount here, and not enough. You could see that coming. That body has to be pretty close to vertical as you're landing. And if it's not, when you combine the forces of your traveling forward and your rotating, if your body isn't in that position, it's going to lead to deductions. You're going to take steps. You're going to put your hands down.
That's good job.
Back to Alexander Artimoff, who's been very consistent, 15.4, 15.4. This is his third of 6 rotations. He is the leader in this Visa National Championship on floor exercise.
And speaking of being leaders, his dad told me before the competition began that he never really wanted to be the leader. He was always content. He had guys like Blaine Wilson and Paul Hamm who had been there. He was content to kind of be in the shadows. He says, I guess maybe it's his time now.
Well, remember, with the injuries, he lost an entire year to training, competition.
And as we said at the top of the show, his strength, though, is this right here. It's pommel horse, and he's so great at it that he tosses it out and does a lot of it on the floor exercise as well. I mean, this is exhausting, Al. For the normal human being to do that sequence right there with all of this tumbling, it's just aerobically it's exhausting, and he's so technically proficient at it that it's easy for him. Just little tiny adjustments when he's landing, and you know, those judges, they are as strict as they can get. Every time he takes the littlest hop, it's a deduction. Triple twist. And a very solid routine for Artimoff, but he definitely opens that door in a few different spots.
Now someone's got to walk through the door.
That's exactly right, and there has been nobody, except for basically Alvarez, that has been able to put together hit routine after routine.
And in the background, you can hear the Minnesota Gopher fans cheering for Alvarez.
You know, the other athletes are just watching this ability to do this type of flare work. They're drooling at this. Not only can he do it on pommel horse, but look how easily he performs it and executes it here on floor exercise.
And it's not just what he does, it's how he does it. There's virtually no errors whatsoever. He is not known for being the best tumbler. This is a triple twist, difficult at the end, but you see him pike his chest down and he kind of slides backwards and takes a step. Still going to get a good score, though.
14.75. Not great. We'll see if Artimoff can keep the lead now when we do all the math. Back to Todd Thornton, 13.8, and that will doom his effort to repeat his national championship. Back to St. Paul after this. These are the 2006 Visa Gymnastics Championships. We're on the shore of the mighty Mississippi River, which starts in Minnesota and splits the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul, which is where we are at the Xcel Center. Midway through the third rotation, this is Shawn Townsend. We go to Andrea Joyce.
Well, day one of the competition was a bit of a nightmare for Shawn Townsend. Even though he's the most experienced gymnast in the field here, he told us that he felt like a rookie out there, nervous and overcautious. So he said that his strategy for today, don't hold back. Shawn told me that his goal was to subtly creep up on the other gymnasts. Well, so far it hasn't exactly been subtle. Al, you can definitely feel Shawn Townsend's presence down here.
Yes, you can. And what Shawn wants to do is make the World Championship team to represent the United States in October in Denmark and get back in the sport and maybe get that Olympic chance that he missed in 2004 and 2008. Here's Guillermo Alvarez, second place.
And he actually surprised himself by making the national team last year, and that was the catalyst for him to continue. He was done with his collegiate eligibility at the University of Minnesota. He said, hey, I'm going to stick around. His main goal is to try to win a medal at the World Championships. And with the new scoring system, you see a lot of swing elements like that. And to be honest, it has helped athletes like Guillermo very much, as well as Artimoff, because they don't have the brute strength that you see from someone like a Jonathan Horton. You can derive some of those bonus points, some of those big difficulty numbers from more swing, which is a great thing they did. Oh, and
wow, he almost came off the podium.
yeah, that was close. A double twisting, double somersault, and that's called risk and reward, and he doesn't get the reward for that one. He's going for an extra 1/10 of a point with that dismount, but he loses more than that easily with those 3 steps on the landing.
And remember, with the scoring system today, we're seeing the 2 scores. The first one is exactly what they did in their exercise, like this skill on his dismount, but the second score is how well he executed it, so obviously he'll have some deductions because of that dismount.
14.6, that's just okay. Now to Shawn Townsend, and he's on the high bar.
And this event was really phenomenal the first day, except for he had a mistake towards the latter part of his routine. He did 2 major releases in a row. He said, I was doing way more than anybody else, so I've decided to scale back. He's just going to do 1 release. It comes right here. First day, he did 2 in a row, which was phenomenal.
And Tim, he said his finger actually came out of his grip, and he was struggling throughout the routine to get it back on.
Right, on that skill right there. Did a very nice combination. And just a dismount really left for Shawn Townsend, and this routine has been a walk in the park for him, and this dismount he's been doing for about 10 years. No problem.
Shawn keeps putting up 15.4s like he's done so far. He's going to factor into this thing.
Not going to be quite that high. High bar has really been one of the toughest routines for being evaluated at these championships.
Back to David Sender. You see some of the gymnasts wearing the singlets or jerseys of their collegiate teams, others wearing the jersey of Team Chevron. That's sort of USA Gymnastics. It's the team that trains in Colorado Springs.
Well, some of them train in Colorado Springs. It's basically the guys that are no longer college eligible, and if they're a top contender, then the people from Chevron have been underwriting some of their training expenses. So we thank them.
Great event for David. He is an unbelievable tumbler.
Yeah, this is really one of the events where he shines. He's powerful vaulter, great on floor. Always been great too. Always been, you know, kind of like a super ball when he was a little kid. Said one of the biggest frustrations was finishing second to Todd Thornton last year at these national championships, and he was not chosen to represent Team USA at the World Championships. Wants to leave no doubt this year.
That just goes to show you, you finish second at the national championships and you still don't get to be picked to represent the United States. That's how hard this whole thing is to figure out.
He actually said he found that quite insulting as an athlete.
Big tumbling from start to finish for David Sender. Had some errors, but going to get a big score.
Good job. Just pull out that first pass out of your hand.
Yeah, it was a great fight. His coach, Tom Galimi, said, way to pull out that first pass. He was a little bit off, and he kept going. This very difficult tumbling pass.
A lot of twisting.
A lot of twisting, and as Tom Galimi said, he was a little bit off, but when you got legs like he does, there's a larger variance of when he can make it and other guys can't.
14.95 in the new world of gymnastics. 14.85, lowest score so far for Shawn Townsend. So here's a look at the standings. Well, he says hi to Texas. Here's a look at the standings right now after the third rotation. Alexander Artimoff still has the lead, and it's increasing over Guillermo Alvarez and Jonathan Horton. Back after this on NBC Sports. Back in St. Paul, Minnesota at the 2006 Visa Gymnastics Championships, you're looking at Alexander Artimoff, the leader in this national championship after 3 rotations, which brings us to the halfway point, and we now move into the second half, and we'll pick it up with the vault. You see the scores of Guillermo Alvarez. He's in second place, and he's got scores in the 14s.
And he can get a big number here. He does technically this vault as well as anybody I've ever seen. It's all about gaining power and momentum, and he gets his hands back to the table quicker really than anyone I've seen. Right there, like a rocket, and
that helps.
Yes, it does.
It always helps to stick the landing.
He's actually capable of doing a harder vault. His coach Mike Burns told me before the competition, we looked around and we have strategically culled back what we're going to do today. Let everybody else make the mistakes and just do it perfect like that.
And I always have people say, why do you, Elfie, and Tim always talk about sticking the landing? It's so annoying. Well, look in an event like this, if you don't stick the landing in every rotation, that is 1.2 points. That's 12 tenths. You think that'll determine a championship? Absolutely. And now Artimoff on the pommel horse, and this is where he was just unbelievable night one.
And you know, Al, the amazing thing is, as a kid, I mean, 5 years ago, he was capable of doing basically this exact same routine. At that point, he was, I mean, people that saw this from around the world were like, they were totally blown away. It's like I say about him all the time, it's not just what he does, but how he does it. Super difficult elements.
And also performing it in a pressure situation.
And starting right there, that full twisting kier. Now watch this, he'll go up, come back down. He's not done. Do a full spindle.
And not touch.
Not at all. Look at the toes, look at the knees. He is, no question about it, one of the handful best gymnasts in the world on that event right there.
Fists in the air, big smile, he loved it.
So did Dad, and it was so funny. Right before the competition, I see his dad running out of the gym and then running back in. I forgot his credential. Well, he's got 2 more events, and he'll be national champion if he keeps it going. Probably won't need that credential anymore.
And of course, the important thing here for Sasha is the fact that he's performing under pressure. As I said, he's on the podium, national championship. He's, you know, being watched by everyone, and, you know, he's just putting it all together. Such a different athlete than we saw over a year ago.
And up to a handstand and effortlessly back down again. It's really hard to do that, and to do it the way that he does. Not just knees locked, toes pointed, but huge straddle throughout the flare and just cranking on those feet. So it's great.
It gets a very good number, 15.35.
Hey guys, hi for me. Hope you guys are all training hard. All right?
Keep up with me.
Are we all training hard?
Well, I know I am, Al.
Here's Shawn Townsend. He's been training hard, and right now he's on the floor exercise.
He's really done a very nice job today. He was actually at the qualifier for this competition. He won. He thought that maybe put a little bit too much pressure on him and let it get to him a bit on day 1. But so far today, he's been great. And that was perfect right there.
You know, what's interesting, Tim, is last year, he was sort of determined to become the specialist gymnast and not go all around anymore. And he said,
but that, excuse me, that was a big mistake right there. He was supposed to rebound and go into a front somersault 1 3/4 and a little bit off, and he'll lose a handful of bonus for that.
And what he said is basically, you know, specializing backfired on me, and what I really need to do is prove myself on all 6 apparatus and really be prepared to be there for the U.S. whenever they need me.
Well, he had that error in the second pass, but besides that, this was a great routine besides that one mistake. And what that does, it will lower his difficulty score. They really don't even call it bonus anymore. We're so used to using that terminology.
But you know, the old Shawn Townsend probably would have given up right towards the end of the routine after that mistake. But look at him here, aggressive, determined, and impressive that he stuck that landing in that final tumbling pass.
That was Shawn Townsend's dismount, and yes, Elfie, he did nail it, but gets only a 14.5. The judges saw the mistake. Back in St. Paul, Minnesota, Al Troutwig, Tim Daggett, Elfie Schlegel, and Andrea Joyce. You're looking at David Sender, and he has been very, very consistent, but he's really going to want to put a score into the 15s here and not in the 14s.
And he described day one on pommel horse as a mess.
It was rather blunt, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he said it was not at all an indication of how his training has been. So he was a little bit surprised. He says this is a difficult event for him, but he didn't think he would mess it up quite that much.
But it's not one of his strongest events. There's no question about it. He is physically very, very strong, but he kind of lets that interfere a little bit with some of the swing that's necessary.
And that's what he's really been trying to focus on in his training, is the swing.
And while he was way off there and got it back together. It's a long routine, though. And, oh, God. That's right at the end of his exercise, and he knows it, and there is nothing worse than doing that.
Yeah. Do the dismount. Circle up.
So deciding where to pick the routine back up again, and his coach telling him you got to do that pirouette at the end.
Come on, Dave.
But literally, he was right at the end of the exercise, and for him, especially struggling in day one, scored a 12.5 on the pommel horse. That is
nice. That
is really low, and this is not going to be much better.
Good dismount.
Back to Jonathan Horton. He had problems on the pommel horse too, 13.45.
But look at the other scores he's been building since that event.
And he can certainly keep that going here as well.
There are less than 20 universities that still have gymnastics programs in the United States, and we're seeing some of the best ones represented here. He's got the shirt of the Oklahoma Sooners. Minnesota's here. Stanford from David Sender.
Nice release skill there. It's called a bell after actually an East German gymnast way back when there was an East and West Germany.
Half the audience, Tim, just said, what is he talking about?
Yikes. Double pike and a big step on the landing. That routine's really not going to move him up, and it's not going to move him down. It's just going to keep him about where he is.
Look pretty clean?
Yeah, real clean. It was clean. This bell skill that I said, it is a giant to a double back somersault.
I'm telling you, the dismount, you got to use and lose this some more.
Yeah.
It's a good dismount.
Felt pretty good.
All right, 2 more.
A lot to talk about. His body language gives off a feeling of a lot of confidence. 14.95. And David Sender, he gets hit. 12.7. And he's cool with it, though. Hey, it's going to happen. What are you going to do? Todd Thornton. He's had a 13.8, a 14.35, and a 14.45. The defending national champion is just not at the same level he was a year ago.
And you know, this is an event that he'll be a little bit concerned about because it is the floor exercise. Endurance is a concern. He hasn't really put in the numbers. He really doesn't know what to expect.
And a big tumbling pass for the mount. 1.5 twisting, 1 and 3. It's called a Thomas, named after Kurt Thomas. So far, very good, but just slight little balance check, and believe it or not, they'll take a deduction just for kind of showing a lack of control. We saw a little bit of pommel horse on the floor, as we saw from Sasha Artimoff. Not quite as extensive. But Todd, he has a lot of style. He really has a nice look when he does gymnastics. He just doesn't look like himself, though. He doesn't have that spark. And if he is going to encounter a problem, it's right here. You're exhausted at this point, the end of an exercise. And he puts it to his feet. It was a good landing, but he actually was supposed to do that in the laid out or straight body position and just didn't have enough juice, tucked up. Probably a smart decision.
Good job. Hang in there, hang in there. Fight.
Hang in there and fight. Things pretty somber right there. You can see the look on Thornton's face. He knows what the deal is.
All right. All right.
We've got names like Thornton and Horton at the American National Championships, but we also have a leader like Artimoff and a name like Alvarez and Popescu. Sounds Romanian? Well, it is. We'll have his story when we come back to St. Paul, Minnesota, and more of the Visa National Championships. Welcome back to St. Paul, Minnesota. These are the 2006 Visa Championships. Everybody here, we all do. We've got a story to tell. Just some stories are better than others. How about the one that Popescu could tell you about how he grew up in Romania in the town called Buzău and how he was a great gymnast and came with his team to the United States in 1999 to Richmond, Virginia to compete in the Pontiac Team Championships. That's the bag that he still carries his gear in today. And that's what he looked like in the room that day in 1999 with his Romanian gymnast teammates. You'll hear Tim Daggett comment on the vault that he did back in 1999.
Around.
And what happened was the competition ended, and so did Popescu's association with the team. That's right, the team left and went home. Unfortunately, he did not go with them.
3 Romanian gymnasts left their team to remain in the United States. Romanian and American gymnastics officials have not located Marian Melita, Viora Popescu, or Vasil Cioana. But Tim Daggett has learned that USA Gymnastics received 2 phone calls yesterday. One to say the gymnasts were safe, and the second to inquire about the possibility of the 3 living in the United States but still competing for Romania.
Well, let's turn off the time machine. This is now 2006. Can you compete and represent Romania and then also compete and represent the United States?
Well, if you are an American citizen, and on October 19th, 2005, he said one of the happiest days of his life, he became an American citizen. He said that he decided to leave Romania. He just couldn't take it any longer. He felt that the coaches treated them with such a low regard of respect. It was so dictatorial, and he says to me that his dream would actually be to be competing at a World Championships or an Olympic Games and have Romania right next to them. He said he'd like to just be able to put it in their face that way. And this is the event he could do it on. This is huge. A soup double back in a pike position. Oh! Wow. Gosh, that's too bad. You know, day 1 of this competition, this vault was phenomenal. Not only did he do the most difficult piece of gymnastics at these championships, but he rocked the landing. This is so hard. Got to explode off of that horse. He keeps a pike position and just holds on to that. Ugh. And this is scary, I got to tell you. If this isn't perfect, it can be bad on this vault.
Here's his coach, Guillermo Alvarez, for this event. Oh, you love the enthusiasm. I mean, he went to every resource he could to make that happen.
Well, and I think he's been nursing a slight injury from this event, and I think he just was thinking, I've got to pull with everything I have, and obviously he gave it a little bit too much.
And this really is the only event that he, and once again, he doesn't look too confident. This one should be a little bit easier. A handspring double front, same vault, and almost a carbon copy to what he did about 7 years ago in Richmond, Virginia. A handspring 2.5 front.
I love the reaction, though. I love this coach.
The U.S. team has decided that vaulting is one of the weakest events, and so there has been a little bit of bonus added if you are capable of doing 2 very difficult vaults like this. He does. And remember, those world teams, Olympic teams, they are not chosen purely by the all-around anymore. If you're an event specialist, you could potentially make a team, and so that's why he goes all out and does both of those vaults.
Now to Shawn Townsend. Shawn getting a 14.5 on the floor, a 14.85 on the high bar, and then a couple of 15.4s.
Definitely not a great event for Shawn. He says, this is my worst. But for him today, he said, I just need to get through it.
How many people on earth can really say this is a great apparatus for them? Not many.
Artimoff.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And this is a spot where the USA is very weak. There's no question about it.
And you know what? In Beijing, with the Chinese depth, they're just going to be all out.
Well, the Chinese on pommel horse, they got 10 guys over there that are just blow your socks off. And that was a very good routine for Shawn Townsend. It does not have the difficulty that we saw from someone like Artimoff, but he's going to be happy to have that one done.
Take that.
He seems satisfied. I'll take that. And we'll check out the scores and see who stands where at the Visa Championships in a moment. Welcome back to the Xcel Energy Center, the home of the NHL's Minnesota Wild. These are the 2006 Visa National Championships, and Shawn Townsend's had a lot to say. And he's been speaking with his gymnastics, too. 13.95, though, on the pommel horse. That's low. So was a 12.7 on that same apparatus for David Sender. How's he feeling about his still rings?
Well, it's a good event for him. He doesn't have to let go like you do on high bar, and pommel horse is, as we said, really a swinging event, but David Sender very physically strong, and strength moves like this, a Maltese, get you a lot of points in the difficulty category. And once again, he does that press to a planche. Just amazing the level of strength that it takes to move your body against gravity up from such a difficult position in the first place.
I know David hasn't seen a score today above 15. Actually, they've all been just slightly below. This is an apparatus where he could score at least that.
Well, he got a 15.25 in day one. And he just opens the door. You know, a little bit, that silly little hop on the landing. It's the last thing the judge sees, and on a dismount like that, David's been doing that dismount for years and years, and when you don't stick something that is just so easy for you, it's a little bit frustrating. It's just, golly, why'd I have to take that small little hop?
Well, he's broken 15. And now we're back to Jonathan Horton. His best number is a 15.55 on the rings. He's now on the high bar.
And he can do that and more here. Day one, though, he missed his first release skill, but this is hold on to your seat. They call this guy X Games because he is radical. This is a remarkable routine. Just so difficult. Does 3 release skills. It all starts right here. Beautiful. Wow. Wow. Now maybe the most spectacular part of this exercise comes up right here. This is a triple twisting double somersault. Wow! Wow.
Everybody's loving that. That's how Oklahoma won a national championship.
That's what I'm looking for.
That's what I'm looking for.
You know what?
Yes. Been waiting for that all week. Over here. Looking for that all week. That one right there. It's the best feeling ever.
So look at these releases. This is the one he missed in day one. Laid out Kovacs, beautiful. And then he'll do this same Kovacs in a tuck position, add a full twist, and then wham, grab that bar. There's the third one. And he's not done. Very few gymnasts in the world can do this dismount. Watch this, 2 flips, 3 twists, yikes! Grab that ground.
And he almost stuck it.
They do skills like that in aerial skiing.
Yeah,
In freestyle skiing, that's amazing.
You really can't teach that either. You can't teach this to a guy that isn't willing to go out on the edge like that.
You did great, bud, you know? You look like you're having fun out there.
Felt good.
Look like you're
He's got some starburst.
You're a swing with your heart.
And that I don't get. That 9.2 execution, I just don't get that, to be perfectly honest. Wow, that's too low, too low.
Well, Tim, they changed all the scoring so that it would be better, and we still don't understand it. Now remember, there's a national championship on the line here, but there is also status to represent the United States at the World Championships coming up in October in Denmark, so they want to see consistency.
And he has been the model of that, the only athlete thus far to be really mistake-free, and the only guy he is chasing right now is Artimoff, and ironically, they were from the same club when they were youngsters. In Colorado, Gymnastica. Another solid routine. Not really jam-packed with difficulty, but gonna get the job done.
Yeah, the Gophers chanting in the background. He's got a huge contingent here, and of course we're in Minnesota. Back to Artimoff, the leader, trying to seal the deal and close this out and win it. He's hit on 3 of 4, 2 more rotations to go.
And this event, probably the most challenging for him after that shoulder surgery. He had torn 4 different ligaments, was out for about 6 months, and shoulders and rings, they just don't go that well together. And when you got a sore shoulder, it just makes strength moves like that even more difficult.
Especially when you have to hold it for a required time.
Frankly, I don't understand how you can have any kind of a shoulder injury and ever get on the rings again, period.
Yeah, well, I mean, these guys are athletes. There's no question about that. They train really hard, and if you're a top athlete in any game, you got to be able to deal with the pain. There's no question about that. But once again, as I mentioned with Alvarez, the new rules actually help him because he can gain some of the difficulty points through swing elements, which really wasn't the case the last time around. Now, for those of you that were watching the women's national championships, we saw that Valery Lyukin always spoke to his daughter in Russian when she was struggling, but he kind of gets the Russian most of the time, so his dad's happy with that one. These are those strength or those swing skills that I was talking about that do gain him difficulty points.
And of course, he's always going to score high on the execution score because he is so clean and neat throughout his routine.
How did the judges see it? Not great, 14.6. But he will keep the lead here. We've completed 5 of 6 rotations. Alvarez score a 14.4 on parallel bars. So after 5 rotations here in St. Paul, Minnesota, Artimoff has the lead by a little less than a point. Alvarez next, and then Jonathan Horton. Back after this on NBC Sports. 1 more rotation to go. At the 2006 Visa Championships, Alexander Artimoff, known as Sasha, is in the lead. He's got to be feeling great about how he has performed. Behind him is Guillermo Alvarez from the University of Minnesota. He's in second place. He'll be on the high bar. And over on rings, Shawn Townsend will perform. He is in 4th place. And remember, for someone like Shawn Townsend, it is not necessarily about winning the national championship again, which he's already done in his career. It's about reestablishing his name and his ability in this sport to represent the United States at international competitions like the World Championships in October. So we return to sender. Address is known. That would be Stanford University, and he is on the vault.
And this is a fantastic event. I think his best power event. He was second only to Popescu in day 1. He does a Yurchenko with 2.5 twists, and this is all out 100% aggression.
That's nice.
Come up high in the chest, right?
It's so unfortunate. The one bad part about that is that vault is so hard to do that way. I mean, he is doing so much. Watch, he turns his body around, goes onto his hands. He'll do 1.5 flips and 2.5 twists.
Blind landing.
Just put his feet on the ground.
For as good as that was, coaches have to be tough. Be better. 16.5 and almost perfect execution.
Just about as good as it gets right there. That was radical.
And now we go to Shawn Townsend on the rings.
Shawn changed his game plan for this year. You mentioned that he wants to prove himself beyond that world team. He said this is where he needs to prove himself at the championships, not the next event. It's here. This is where they're picking the team, right here.
And he has done a great job in day 2. Got a taste of winning a medal in world competition. Not just a medal, a gold medal on parallel bars. Said it's not enough for me, though. Tim, I want to be a legend. That's what he said. So far, so good. Dismount right here. Nice day for, and then, not the way you want to finish out. That is so unfortunate. I don't think I've ever seen him sit that dismount down. And that is what it comes down to, is probably thinking that he was done before he was, and just for 1 split second, that's all it takes, a fraction of a second, to lose a little bit of focus and concentration.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Scoot those feet too far underneath you, and that is 8/10. Goodbye.
$14.8. You don't have to be a genius to read that body language. When we come back, Alexander Artimoff tries to nail down this national championship. He'll be on the vault in St. Paul, Minnesota after this. The national championship for 2006 has come down to this. Can Alexander Artimoff cleanly execute his vault?
And I would say yes.
Okay.
He did in the first day of competition, and surprisingly, it was one of the first vaults he had done since his shoulder surgery. But it all comes down to one vault, double twisting Yurchenko.
He knows it, and we know it. His lead was big enough to give him that sort of feeling. But this national championship with a gold medal dad is only a step.
Well, I've said this so many times before. There are a handful of things that you want to do if you're a male gymnast, a female gymnast, and one of them, obviously, is you want to be all-around champion of the USA, and that, without the judges, I don't care what they do, Artimoff is the all-around champion for 2006.
So now, second, third, and prestige up for grabs. Jonathan Horton, floor exercise. We still don't understand what the judges saw in his high bar routine. That was awesome.
And he has been great on the last 4 events, 4.5. This one included. Started poorly on his first event, pommel horse, and has been climbing his way back.
You know, Tim, he had that attitude before the start of the competition, knowing that he was starting on pommel horse. He said, no one event will ruin me. It was almost as if he sort of prepared himself for a bad start.
Well, he told me that when he starts thinking too much, things go wrong. So he's got 1 pass left. And so that means just go.
Wow.
Big dismount, double twisting double. And that is 5 great sets for Jonathan Horton. Getting a congratulations from his coaches, Mark Williams and Rustam Sharapov from University of Oklahoma.
It's over to you.
Of course, all his teammates that got him through this event.
And this is the dismount right here. You're exhausted. You got to remember, 2 flips, 2 twists, tuck that body around and find the floor.
Yeah, impressive that he ended with that pass.
Talk to Sally.
Well, he's proven he's one of the best in the United States, that's for sure. He's the best in the United States. Artimoff at a 15.9 on the vault. That's one of the highest scores we've seen in this competition. So a smooch from Dad, and it's up to Guillermo Alvarez just to close this thing out in fine fashion. He would have to hit a ball out of this ballpark and the ballpark next door to win.
Yep, and with the performance we just saw from Jonathan Horton, he's got to be a little concerned about that. Guillermo has gone 11 for 11 at these national championships.
What do you mean by that?
2 competitions. The first day was 6 events. Today, 6 events. They add them together, and that gives you your champion. He has not made a major error since he came to St. Paul, Minnesota. Doing a new dismount on the high bar. That's the only major challenge he has. Here we go, right here. Kind of unorthodox.
Oh.
Oh, unbelievable. Oh.
Well, now it's going to come down to the tenths of deductions. He's been in second place just about the entire competition.
Great setup today. Great meet.
Year by year. Slowly working my way up. What?
Slowly working his way up. 15.5 for Jonathan Horton.
That's good.
And I would say with that score right there,
Yeah.
he is going to be second.
Oh.
A 13.9, and that is going to change the standings, and it's not as close as we really thought. Jonathan Horton is going to finish second. Guillermo Alvarez is going to finish third. David Sender and Shawn Townsend complete the top 5. Let's go to Andrea Joyce.
Well, it was a long road back, Sasha. Everything you had to go through with your shoulder injury. Can you describe what this moment is like for you to be the national all-around champion?
Oh, it feels great. I cannot believe it, you know. It's probably the happiest moment of my life right now. I didn't expect this in 1,000 years, you know, because I didn't even expect to do all-around this meet. You know, I started doing all-around like 2 weeks ago.
Well, and you just started vaulting again last week, so you're in the lead heading into that final rotation. What was going through your mind?
I was just like praying that my shoulders stay healthy, you know. I don't want to, because it kind of gets sore on vault, and it kind of bothers me sometimes. That's why I haven't really vaulted too much, but I was like, well, last event, got to give everything I got. So
Men's program is at a bit of a crossroads. What does this tell you about your future? Do you think that this is your time?
I hope so. You know, I just got to stay healthy. That's my main problem, is always getting hurt before big meets, and I just got to stay healthy and get more consistent, get more confidence when I compete, and I'll be in great shape.
Great to see you back there. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Our congratulations to Alexander Artimoff, the national champion of the United States for 2006. Once again, we're reminded DNA is a very powerful thing. With Andrea Joyce, Tim Daggett, and Elfie Schlegel, Al Trowick saying thanks for joining us. We'll see you again soon here on NBC Sports.